Episode 5, A Fragile Peace, the decade that shaped the New World. When the guns fell silent in 1918, the world entered what many hoped would be an era of peace. But the 1920s were no golden age. They were a turbulent decade of rebuilding, rebellion, economic hardship, and rising ideologies. In this episode, we explore how the post-war world teetered between hope and chaos, and how the seeds of World War II were already being sown. The peace everyone hated, Versailles and widespread discontent. The Treaty of Versailles, 1919, intended to end war, instead planted the seeds of the next one. Germany was humiliated, politically and economically. Italy, a so-called victor, felt betrayed and cheated of its promised rewards. New nations like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia emerged, but not without ethnic tensions. France sought revenge and security, but remained economically shaky. Rather than lasting peace, Versailles became a rallying cry for dictators to rise. Economic collapse, revolutions in waiting across Europe, economies were shattered. Germany faced hyperinflation. In 1923, a loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. Britain dealt with mass unemployment and strikes. In Russia, the Soviet Union emerged from civil war and began building the first planned socialist economy. In this chaos, ideologies took root. Fascism rose in Italy. Mussolini seized power in 1922 with the March on Rome. Communism stabilized in the Soviet Union and inspired uprisings from Hungary to China. Colonial awakening, resistance spreads beyond Europe. Though the empires had fallen, colonialism lived on, but now under fire. In India, Gandhi's movement gained momentum after Indian soldiers returned from European battlefields. Egypt revolted in 1919 and gained limited independence by 1922. In China, the May 4th movement, 1919, sparked both nationalism and a communist future. In Africa, returning veterans began to question the legitimacy of imperial rule. Culture of the 1920s, dancing on the edge. The 1920s weren't just about struggle. It was also an age of cultural reinvention. In America, the Jazz Age, silent films, women's suffrage, and the Roaring Twenties. In Europe, surrealism, Dadaism, and existential art emerged from post-war disillusionment. In Soviet Russia, revolutionary cinema and propaganda art took center stage. Yet beneath the glitter was deep anxiety, a sense that peace was temporary. Final reflection, a decade of hope and instability. The 1920s were a time of global transition. Peace was fragile and short-lived. Democracies were weak and under threat. Ideologies were gaining momentum, preparing for a more explosive decade ahead. What seemed like a new beginning was in many ways a pause before an even greater storm. In the next episode, the Great Depression and the rise of dictators. Next time, we dive into the global crash of 1929, how one financial collapse set off a worldwide domino effect, and how economic despair paved the way for the rise of Hitler, Stalin, and the totalitarian regimes of the 1930s. Subscribe to uncover how fragile peace gave way to fear, and how the ashes of one war became the fuel for another.